Hi everybody, I'm the Idea Maker, and today, as you can see in the background, if you guys recognize this area, I'm actually in Ray and Deborah's kitchen, or the set of it. What I want to do is I want to do something different. So in my reaction video to Everybody Loves Raymond Season 1, Episode 1, I explained that I was going to be doing this series where I wanted to go and I wanted to give a better clarification on how the humor was different, how everything was different back from 1996, and be able to bridge those lessons and be able to bridge them to what we have today. What I'm going to do is I'm going to give a quick recap of the episode itself. And then from there, what I'm going to do is from that quick recap, I'm going to be able to try to do my best to be able to explain the concepts and the lessons from it. And I'm going to do it in different chapters. So with that being said, I'm going to give my recap on the episode, and then we're going to dive right into the lessons. So, to recap the episode, this is the pilot episode where Deborah wants to spend her birthday with Ray and with the kids. The thing is that she doesn't want to spend her birthday with Ray's parents and Ray's brother, Robert, and his parents, Marie and Frank. She doesn't want to go and spend any quality time with them, especially because she feels that they're obnoxious, that they are always barging in, that they don't respect the privacy of Ray and Deborah's home. And the reason being is because she feels like them being across the street doesn't help at all. So that doesn't put a lot of things to ease. So she tells Ray to go and tell his parents that at this point they need to respect their boundaries. And she tells for Ray to go and tell them that Deborah, and himself included, which she forces him to include himself, to let them know that the two of them want to spend quality time together for her birthday, which is a very understandable thing. But Ray chickens out, especially because Ray doesn't really want to tell the truth to his parents, especially because of how they are, which it can be understandable to a point, but at the same time, it definitely needs to be something that needs to happen. But I'm going to also explain how sometimes it might not be the best idea to sometimes tell the truth to somebody. And even though that sounds like a weird thing to do, there are some cases where it might be okay. And sometimes you might not have to explain yourself. You don't either have the right to, or you really just don't have to. I'm going to explain those reasons. From there, I'm also going to explain one of the jokes that's in there that what I originally called disgusting. It might seem disgusting when it comes to back in the day, but what you also have to understand is I'm going to have to rephrase the quotes because especially that it's a sensitive topic. So let's dive right onto the concepts and the lessons that we've learned from this episode of Everybody Loves Raymond. So the first thing that I want to get into would be talking about having a family and being married. So first of all, as you see in the episode, and this is a very, very prominent theme that happens throughout the whole entire series, but Ray is a married man that he lives across the street from his parents' house, which is the house that he grew up in. And the thing is that he's married to Deborah, and they have 3 children. They have Allie, and they have, I think in the first episode's name, it was Gregory and Michael or something else. I don't remember. So from there, with Deborah saying that he's been out for a couple of days, but he's 16 minutes late, what I meant when I said, he's working. Well, yes, sometimes when you're late from coming home from work, there's going to be your spouse or your partner is going to be late at times, and that's okay. I think that spouses and partners should understand that sometimes you're going to be late from work, especially if your boss calls you in and says, "Hey, I need you to work a little bit later because we need this assignment done, or we need this to be stocked, or any of these other different things that your boss or your other supervisors need." I mean, I understand her point too, because she is taking care of the children and that it's her by herself. And I understand where it comes into play that she doesn't want Marie to go in, and she wants and have her go and help take care of the kids. There's a couple of things that I do understand about Deborah, and there's a couple of things I understand about Marie. So, first of all, I understand Deborah because Marie can be intrusive. She can be nosy. She can put her foot into somebody else's business where it doesn't belong. But I can understand Marie because it's her son, and I can understand that she wants to put herself into his business because that she's always been there to raise him in this sort of way. But the other thing too is that, he's a grown adult. He can make his own decisions. He's now married. He has children. He has his own family obligations. But there are families that sometimes they will give the so-called guilt trip when it comes to focus on whichever family they're supposed to focus on. And that's what Marie does a lot of the times, is that she gives Ray these guilt trips. And this will be shown later on in the series when you see it. But you'll see that Marie likes to do a lot of these guilt trips to Ray, especially when it comes to having to choose which family that he'll be with. And that's going to be a very prominent theme, is understanding and respecting the boundaries between one person and another. Now, when it comes to Deborah, I understand that it's a very, very hard job to be able to take care of children, and for her husband to be going out and working. He's a sports columnist, and that doesn't make things easier for her because he's out there, he's working, he's going to the games, he's writing these articles, he's doing what he can. And then when it comes to Deborah, that she's alone taking care of the kids, and then on top of it, Marie or Frank or even Robert, either one of them, comes into the house without even knocking, without even calling, and they do what they have to do, or they do what they want to do, especially because they feel like it's an extended family. And that's how I feel like sometimes there are these issues when it comes to extended family. And what I mean by that is that, and this is going to tie into the next lesson, which I would feel is about extended family. But first, let me get to this point. My other point about this is that this is going to be one of the more tougher things that Ray will not be able to understand to a point. See, what I mean by that is that Ray, he's out there working, and he has to do what he has to do to make a living in order for income to be made, for them, the children to be fed, for her to be fed, for him to be fed, and for them to have food, for them to have their utilities, for them to have the house, and so on and so on. So, of course, there are going to be days that he works late, but there are those times that Deborah does need him. And I can understand her point of view, and I can understand Ray's point of view. There's a lot of things that they need, especially because they need each other in this marriage, and they need each other in this special and important time. So I could definitely understand both sides. And I can understand when it comes to Marie versus Deborah, where Marie, she wants to do what she can to help out, and she wants the best for Raymond. She wants the best for his children and for Deborah's children. But the other thing that I will get to later in the next chapter or the next segment is that sometimes extended families can be a pain to deal with, and sometimes they could also be the best thing to deal with. And when I mean deal with, I mean, to be living with. Now, to going back to why I understand Deborah and why I understand Marie, is that Deborah, at this point, she wants to feel like she can be able to take care of the children without having to get criticized by Marie. Because Marie, what she does is that she's very critical of Deborah. She's very critical of the things that she's very instigating when it comes to it, in my opinion. I mean, you guys could tell me in the comments where I'm wrong, and you guys can give me your own opinions about it. And I could definitely understand where you guys are going to be coming from. And I want to hear from your opinions. For me, wanting to, respond to them and respond to them in a way where I could either agree or disagree with you respectfully. And especially because I want to hear from other people and I want to hear where you guys are coming from. So it would be a nice little discussion. When I get the chance to do live streams, and if we ever discuss about Everybody Loves Raymond, I would love to get to discuss this with you guys. I would love to get to do this type of thing with you guys just as an idea. So the next section that we're going to get into is the extended family. All right. So the extended family, we're going to be discussing this from Ray's side. Now, first of all, he has his family, which would be him, Deborah, and the children. Then you're going to have the extended family. If you're looking at it from Deborah's perspective or her point of view, it's going to be Marie, Frank, and Robert. Now, from Ray's point of view, it's going to be Deborah's parents. So we're going to discuss the concept of extended families and in-laws. I also bring in-laws into this because sometimes your in-laws will be living with you. There are situations where there are some people that they have their in-laws living with them. Now, I don't see it as a bad thing. I also see it as, it could be a good thing. It could also be something that could help you. It could also be something where if you need the help, especially in a situation where it requires for either one or both of the parents to be working and you need an extra little bit of help. Of course, it's going to be best, in my opinion, to go to family, whether it's your mother, your father, your partner, or spouses, or parents, or whoever, whatever parental figure is there. Now, I say extended families or mixed families in this case. Great thing. I never had a father, so I don't really know anything about that. But I do have a mixed family, so my grandparents. And honestly, I'm very, very grateful to have my grandparents. Now, my mom went to go out and work to make a living, and she was there to support me. And of course, I will always be grateful to God for her and be grateful to God for my grandparents, especially because I'll admit I'm a single child, and I've always been very, very close to my family. The thing is that your family is always what you're going to need. But there are going to be those cases where sometimes the family is going to be holding you back. And what I mean by that is especially those that they want to belittle you. If there's any family member that wants to belittle you, or they want to treat you like a second object, or they want to treat you like you're nothing, then sometimes those are the things that will make it feel the best decision to go and live on your own. Now, there are going to be those cases where sometimes you feel like having to not be with family is the healthiest option, depending on your situation. Now, I personally cannot be able to sum up every person's experience when it comes to families, but I do feel like in order for you to achieve what's best, you need to figure out and you need to determine what is the best situation for you. What is the best situation when it comes to a better, healthy lifestyle, whether it's mentally or emotionally or spiritually. Now, in my case, spiritually, as a person who grew up in a Christian home, and I myself am a Christian. I've been a Christian since I was 5 years old. I've been having a personal relationship with God as a child. I want to respect every single person's experience, and I want to respect every person who's watching these videos. But in my example, I feel like personally family is one of the biggest influences on my life that I feel that has really, really helped me to mature in an environment and in this world where things can get really, really complicated and where things can get really tumultuous quick. And especially because that if you don't have family backing you up, then that can be one of the scariest things that could ever happen. Now, of course, I'm going to result saying, okay, first it was God and then it was my family that backed me up. But I feel like both backed me up at the exact same rate and at the exact same time. But of course, I feel like God was quicker. But anyways, resulting into mixed families and resulting boundaries, I do believe that families should respect other family members. So I do feel like parents should respect their children. Children should respect their parents. I do feel like, especially in this era, the parents should know what the child is feeling or children are feeling. They need to know what's going on in their lives. They need to know what exactly is happening, because if they don't know what's going on, if something happens in the family and it's going to affect the child, or it's going to affect the children, or the spouse or the partner, or the any of the spouse's parents or partner's parents, then if one person doesn't know the issue, then we're going to have issues within each other. I've always believed in the phrase that Abraham Lincoln said, "A house divided against itself cannot stand." And I've always believed in the quote, "United we stand, divided we fall." So a family is exactly those bases that we touch upon. And it's especially important that it needs to be addressed, that family will be the one thing that'll back you up. Sure, you're going to have friends that they come, but sometimes those friends are going to go, and that's going to be one of the hardest things that you could ever face later on down the road. And it really, really is. But the thing is that when it comes to family, there will be family that will back you up and will always be there. Sure, it's not going to be like that in every single family. It's not going to be like that amongst spouses or partners or parents. It's not going to be like that in every single thing. And I cannot sum up every single family experience. But it needs to be said, and it needs to be quoted, that with family, it's the most important thing that you can have in this life. Now, of course, I keep saying family like if I'm Dominic Toretto from Fast and the Furious, and I can be quoted so many times by how many times I say family. Or you guys could use the "I got family" meme that's on the internet whatsoever. But I wholeheartedly agree that family is the most important and most valuable things that you have, and you need to cherish it, especially if you have children. If you have young children right now and you're watching, give them a big hug and give them all the love that they deserve. Give them all the attention that they deserve. Same thing with your spouse or your partner. Give your partner or your spouse the most love that you can ever give them. Give them a big hug, give them a big kiss, and give them the attention that they need and that they deserve. Especially if your partner or spouse is just the best thing that could ever happen to you. And same thing with your parents. Give your parents, the ones who have always been there for you and have always provided the best for you, let them know, acknowledge it to them that you love them wholeheartedly and dearly. Give them the recognition and the love that you have for them. Give it to them. Give it to them right now, okay? If you're watching right now and you're watching this segment, give your kids, give your partner, give your spouse, give your parents, give them the biggest hug and give them the biggest kiss, and give them the recognition that they deserve. Give them the attention they deserve, especially those who have been there to help you through the bad and through the good. Give it to them. Do it right now. Just do it right now. Just pause the video and do it right now. Text them. Go to them. Doesn't matter. Just do it before it's too late. Because there can be a moment where it's too late, and then you're going to be feeling, I should have done something. Don't feel like that. Feel like you've accomplished something. Okay, I'm surprised if you actually did it. Okay, I'm actually really surprised if you did it. I really didn't think that you did it if you did it. But if you did, congratulations to you. If you didn't do it, then I understand. But anyways, now I'm going to go into the next thing, which would be boundaries. All right, so we're going to talk about boundaries. Now, I know that boundaries can be pretty tough. And from my personal point of view, I could speak on this. Children, sure, they're going to have boundaries to a point, but they're not going to have the boundaries of an adult. Children are not going to have boundaries like adults do, but children do have their boundaries. Me personally, I don't really want for my children, when I have children, to know things about the adult world yet. I want them to have a childlike experience, like a beautiful childlike experience. I don't intend and I don't want for them to know of anything that's traumatic, of anything that could scar them for life. I feel like that would be something that would be my fault if anything was to have happened. Now, it's different for adults to have their boundaries. Us as adults, we're going to need our space at times. We're going to need our alone time at points, and we're going to need all these different things that can get us through some of the tough times. So I know that people will resort to things that could endanger themselves, endanger their bodies, endanger their health, and endanger their mental state, their physical state, their emotional state, their spiritual state. Me personally, I resort to prayer. I resort to talking with my family. I resort to talking with family. I resort in prayer, and I resort to listening to my music. I resort to writing or doing activities like playing a video game or working on a puzzle, which, by the way, I'm thinking about doing puzzle live streams if you guys are interested, by the way. And tying it back to this, I really feel like boundaries can be an important thing because sometimes we're going to need our space. Sometimes we're going to need to respect the boundaries of other people. Well, actually, scratch that. We have to respect the boundaries of other people. Adults, we have different boundaries, and that comes from experience, and that comes from what we believe in and how we were raised. If we were raised to not let people touch you in any way whatsoever, then people have to respect your boundaries. If you don't like being touched on the shoulder, or if you don't like having your hand held, or you don't like anything that involves any type of physical contact, people have to respect your boundary. And that's okay. If you have boundaries where it comes to, I don't like a certain thing, whether it's a movie or whether it's a video game or a book or any of that, then I feel like people should respect your boundaries or your preferences and what you like. If you have boundaries when it comes to family members, especially if you have not had a good relationship with a person, whether it was through a relationship or through a marriage, or it was your own parents, or it was someone in your family, then you have to have your boundaries respected. If you don't like certain things, especially when it comes to people that either they live with you or they live across the street, like how in the situation of Everybody Loves Raymond, you have Ray and Deborah and the kids living across the street from Ray's parents and his brother. And the thing is that I feel like I agree with Deborah I think that they should call before they get there. I think that they should knock before they get there to acknowledge that they're there. I do agree with it because I feel like in this type of a situation of a mixed family, that even though that they don't live in the same house, they live in the same neighborhood, I feel like it's a very important thing that they need to respect each other's boundaries. And I feel like I know that Marie wants the best for her grandchildren and she wants the best for Ray, and later on down the road we'll dive into why she doesn't really like Deborah. It does say in the series, if I remember correctly, but when we get to those episodes I will definitely do a breakdown on that and I will do an analysis video on it. But the thing that I want to touch up on is that this is one of the most important things is boundaries. And I feel like Marie, with her getting jabs at Deborah, with how she cooks, how she raises the kids, how she cleans the house, or what she buys, like in the moment where she goes and she sees that Deborah went and she bought something from Victoria's Secret. Now, I feel like that's invading a person's privacy on what somebody else is buy. But I also feel like I think they could have kept the receipt in a different room. But then again, Marie's going to go and she's going to clean everything because that's just how she is. And I feel like at that point, I feel like she would have still found it anyways. But she doesn't have to go and show everything to Frank or everything to Robert. I mean, honestly, that's kind of ridiculous and that's kind of sick, having to make a big deal over something like that. I think whatever Ray and Deborah does in the privacy of their own home, I think it's fine. If they want to do things together and they want to be intimate with each other, then that's in the privacy of their own home, and I think that it should be respected. If Deborah wants to go buy things for herself and if she wants to treat herself, I think that it should be fine. If she tells Ray to stay home with the children to watch them while she goes and she takes some time and she takes it for herself, I think it's okay. I also didn't like that Marie, she went and she had to say along the lines of, well, I guess that she's having a good time, or like, I guess that some people can get to enjoy time off, but having to make a jab at Deborah just because she went to go to the movies with her friend and Ray staying home with the kids to watch them. I think that Marie shouldn't be judging Deborah for that, because parents are going to need their time off too. They're going to need to take some time for themselves. They need to go and have a dinner date or go to a movie or just go take a walk out in the park or outside, or even go an amusement park. Like, let's go to Disneyland. Let's go somewhere that, we could at least acknowledge that we can at least have some fun, and we could at least know that someone's taking care of the kids, whether it's, whether it's your parents or my parents or whoever that we trust to take care of the kids. Personally, I feel like when I have a wife, I would want for her to be in the best care, which if it's a business trip and that either I have to go on or my wife has to go on, I'm definitely taking my wife and I'm definitely taking the kids. And if it's my wife that's going on the business trip, I would want to go, and I would want for the kids to go. And, we could take it as a vacation. I mean, this happened once before, too, with my family. My mom, she had to do some training over at a different state, and it was going to be for 2 weeks. She asked my grandparents and me if we wanted to go with her for those 2 weeks, and it ended up being one of the best vacations I've ever been on. And I was 12 at the time, and I've always loved that vacation just because that it got me into new things and new shows and getting to experience a new part of the country that I never experienced before. I feel like, especially when it comes to stuff like that, I think that it would be nice for the kids to go and for your partner or your spouse to go. And honestly, it's an amazing thing. But I also feel that sometimes parents, they need their time too, especially if they need to do adult things like, go on a dinner date by themselves or go to a movie that they want to watch and can't bring the kids along because the kids will not be able to handle a type of movie like that. And sometimes you just need that time. But the thing is that with Marie, she's very intrusive for a lot of different things. And later on down the road, there's a line that she says that it's something that she says that if I'm going to say something and if I'm going to give an opinion on something, then I'm going to give it, whether or something like that. I don't know. I don't remember the whole thing, but it'll definitely be said and quoted later on down the line. Now, I feel like, again, boundaries are important. I also feel like, in this case, I also feel like being grateful for what your children do is also a very important thing for a parent to acknowledge. Now that I'm going to explain in the next section, which I'm going to be entitling Respecting What Your Children Do. So this one was an interesting section because I feel like with this clip, this is absolutely one of my favorite clips that I recorded. One of the segments that I recorded was when Ray comes over to Marie and Frank's house, and Marie discusses with Ray about the fruits.
Raymond, now, come in, honey.
Oh, great. Here we go.
Your birthday gift to me finally came this morning. And did you know you sent me a box of pears? Oh, they're very nice pears. But there's so many of them.
That's the point. You're supposed to eat them. Right.
Myself?
You could share. Oh my... It doesn't...
Don't ever send us any more food again, okay? Thanks.
I would want food, especially with this economy.
Yes, that's why they call it Fruit of the Month Club.
It's a club?
Oh my... Why are you making a big deal out of this? He was trying to do something nice for you. Be grateful. Don't be an ingrate. Oh my god.
He's got us in some kind of a cult.
It's a club. You're taking this from one extreme to another.
For how long?
Probably a year.
You out of your mind?
Eat the fruit. Eat the fruit. It's just a nice thing. I would want fruit. I want food. If we had food coming every month, I would take an advantage of that. What is your problem? Oh my. Okay. Maybe this might go on a sticker or a decal or a shirt. I should definitely make a thing where it's me saying eat the fruit and have a thing for it. I would love to. Probably I'll do it later on down the road, but still. I kept saying, eat the fruit. Don't be an ingrate. Just be grateful about it. And I think that if your kids do something and if your kid is an adult and your parents, okay, your elderly parents or your parents, okay, and your kids, they want to do something nice for you for your birthday, your anniversary, for the holidays, for anything. I think, in my opinion, and this will also apply to parents with their children who are young or their children who are adults, parents should always respect what their kids give them as a present for any holiday or for a special occasion. I think it's very important that should be acknowledged. I felt like with the way how Marie and Frank were taking the fruits, the way how they took the situation was, in my opinion, it was one of the stupidest things that they could ever do. I mean, they did treat the box of fruit like if it was something that was degrading them. And I think, especially with, again, in this economy, it's really bad. And in this economy, a lot of people, they're trying to make ends meet. They're trying to be able to get a job. And it's tough right now to be able to feed a family and to be able to provide for yourself or to be able to provide for a family. And I feel like with this section, I want to say that it's very, very important that you as the parent should acknowledge your children's gifts that they give you. And it's not garbage. It's that they feel like this is the best thing that they can get you. They're giving it to you from the heart. They're trying to do something nice for you. And again, if I was getting a box of fruit, if I got a box of food or a box of fruit a month for a year, I think that's a great thing. Now, I don't call that as me being an invalid that I can't go get my own fruit. For me, I would consider that as, hey, thanks for the gift. Now you helped save me money, so now I can go use that money and be able to use it towards the next month or the next future months, and I can be able to save up so that way I can get more food. I can get more provisions, especially in this day of age. Now, that's how I would be approaching it as. Again, I could be thinking things differently compared to how you guys might be thinking about it. But to me personally, I think that, Marie and Frank took the really, really wrong approach to it. And that's me personally. But then again, I could be wrong. It could be a different experience for everybody else. But personally, that's what I feel. Which comes to, I would say, would be my two last segments. The first part of this segment will be telling the truth to family, and the last one, which will be the joke that Frank said. Now, I'm also going to do it in a way where I am going to have to rephrase the joke, or I'm going to have to at least requote it. But first of all, let's go to telling the truth. Okay, now, telling the truth to your family can be hard. It doesn't matter what it is, whether it's something about you, whether it's something that you discovered about yourself, whether if it's about your identity or your religious experience or any type of experience. Telling the truth to your parents could be one of the tougher things that you could do, or telling the truth to your spouse or your partner can be hard. Whether it's about if you loved a person, or if it's your own preference for someone or something, or if it's a religious experience or any other type of experience that you have, sometimes telling the truth can be a tough thing. And sometimes you feel like you can be open with your family about this. And sometimes you can't. And I cannot say that it's a guaranteed win when it comes to telling the truth, because parents will act differently. And of course, you'd have to respect what your parents feel. But I do feel like I think that, parents should be, or, anyone should be able to tell the truth. Now, again, I know that cannot be the case for a lot of different reasons or a lot of different experiences, but I do believe that it's very, very important to have this communication between you and your family. I know that telling the truth, especially for those who don't understand the concepts of families having boundaries, or maybe your family doesn't respect you for whatever reason, or maybe you've had issues or relationship issues with your family. And I wish I could say more on that, but again, I don't know much about that. I don't know much about how there can be disrespect amongst family, or how sometimes there could be toxic relationships when it comes to families. And I cannot give my personal experience on that. My family's always been very supportive with me. They've been very supportive when it came to when I wanted to discuss with them about what I wanted to do, what kind of career I wanted to take. And then, they've been very, very supportive, especially when it came to me embarking on this YouTube journey. So I don't know any toxic relationships in my family. And I'm so grateful to God that I don't know what toxic relationships are. I mean, who knows what kind of toxic relationships I can endure later on in life. Now, outside of family, I do understand toxic relationships amongst friends. I do understand toxic relationships among people. Toxic relationships can really, really hurt. And that's when you cannot feel like you can tell the truth and not feel judged. Now, with my family, I can tell them the truth about things and they don't judge me, because that they're there to love me and support me. Now, with those outside of family, that's a different thing, because they have their own mindset and they have their own different experiences on life. Everything is not going to be exactly the same, and that's okay. If you feel like the truth needs to be said, I would say, in my opinion, go for it. Let them know the truth about something, so that way they don't feel like they don't know you. And let them know that you're telling them this because that you want for them to know, because you want for them to acknowledge that you're wanting for them to know that you still love going to them, or you still want to go to them to express what they feel and how they feel about the situation that they're in. And that's what I personally feel about it. Now, of course, it can be different. Sometimes a person could be very overbearing. They could be very toxic. They could have these different things that you don't like about them. And of course, you cannot change a person as much as you want. And you're just going to have to accept that sometimes they can be stubborn, or they can be toxic, or they can be rude, or they can be these any other type of feelings that you have. And it's understandable. But the thing is, too, is that sometimes there will be the point that you can't tell them the truth, and you just have to accept it. You just have to find the right family to tell, or at least to feel confident in. Now, again, that's my personal idea about this. I mean, again, everybody's experiences could be different. And with that being said, I think that family is one of the biggest things that you could have in your life, but also sometimes it could be the thing that drives you away due to the toxic environments or the abusive environments. But it just really depends on where you come from and what your experience is. Now, again, I cannot speak for everyone, but these are just personal ideas and personal concepts and personal conclusions I can come to just from my personal experience. I can't speak for everyone, but I can definitely speak for those who have, at least been in the same position as myself. Now, to end this off, I do want to address the last thing, which is the joke at the end of this that kind of made me a little disgusted, and I'm going to explain about this one. So, this joke that was said by Ray, it's not really much of a joke, but it's more of like a line that's said. What is said is that he goes to, when he's revealing to the family that sometimes that the family can be intrusive, that Marie and Frank and Robert can be intrusive because they don't knock, they don't let them know when they're coming, and all these other different things. One of the things that's said is that Ray tells Frank, "Hey Dad, I know that you find this funny, but can you stop saying that one of the twins has homo tendencies?" Now, see, I don't want to go and break YouTube rules by having to explain, like, to go above and beyond, explain the whole entire joke. But when I said that I felt like that what Frank said, or, what Ray quoted Frank saying, To me, I found it gross and disgusting that you're going to judge a person, or in this case, an infant, based on looks. And that's the thing on people. We judge people by how they look. And that's the thing that us as humans tend to do. It's pretty sad that, we tend to judge people based on how they look instead of by their character or by their hard work and by their personality and by the things that they contribute. I think that it's sad that we as people, we have to judge them for that. The thing is that I don't understand how Frank could say that about a kid and a child or an infant or a baby at this point. And he can be a very vulgar person, but he could also at least say the truth when needs to be said. Now, to me, I don't agree with that statement because you cannot judge a baby by the way how the baby is. You cannot judge someone like that. You can't judge a person like that. It's like you judge a person by how they look, but they act differently. You can judge a person by how they act, but they look differently. You could judge people in any way or another, and they could behave or act or look or talk or do things differently. You cannot judge a person by their looks, by their age, by their skin, by their culture, by their religion or beliefs or their preference or any of these other different things. You cannot judge them by that. Look, I personally believe, who are we to judge somebody else? Okay, I feel like in the end, God's going to judge us all. But then again, that's me. Okay, that's me as a person speaking. I know that it's not the same way for everybody else, but you cannot go judging a person like that. That's why I found it disgusting. It's not because it's a phobic joke. It's more of you cannot go and express that you think that a person looks like this, then that means that this person has tendencies to be this way or that way or act this way or look this way or behave in a way that you think that applies to them. That's what I meant. So I'm glad that I can clear that out of the way and have a good conscience about it, because I think that this is a very important subject. I mean, actually, all of these different concepts are very, very important. And I hope that from these explanations and from this analysis, I'm hoping that you guys can be able to take something away from this and you can be able to apply it into 2024 or whatever year that you're watching this in. But I am so glad that I'm able to break this down, and I am so grateful that I can be able to explain to you guys something from the 90s and be able to translate it and use it and interpret it for something for 2024 and beyond. So I thank you guys again for sitting down and getting to hear me having a talk about Everybody Loves Raymond's lessons from season 1, episode 1. I cannot wait to be able to do this more often and be able to get to do this with you guys a lot more. Now, if you guys really want to see more of these type of videos, then I would highly, highly recommend that you go and like, share, comment, and subscribe, so that way you can be able to see the upcoming videos, especially with the reactions and the analysis videos. If you guys want to follow me on any of my social medias, then you guys can be able to follow me on Snapchat, on Instagram, on Twitter, aka X, also on Discord, and you guys can join my Discord server that has the link in the description. And also, I keep forgetting to mention this over my other videos, but I also have TikTok as well if you guys want to follow me on there, so you guys can see some clips or some recaps or behind the scenes. I will also be doing the same thing on my Snapchat and my Instagram and my Twitter. So if you guys want to check me out in there, awesome. If you guys don't like social media, good for you. So good. So with that being said, and without further ado, thank you guys again for watching. God bless you all. Stay safe. And I cannot wait to see you in the next video. Bye, guys.